Long before anyone sold a bag of potting mix, people grew plants in water. Roman households kept trailing vines in clay amphorae. Medieval apothecaries rooted medicinal cuttings in ceramic vessels. Cottage windowsills across Europe held glass bottles with ivy, philodendron, and herbs growing in nothing but collected rainwater. The practice is ancient, universal, and nearly forgotten, replaced by the modern gardening industry's preference for soil, fertilizer, drainage layers, and all the products that go with them. Water culture is not a trend. It is the oldest form of indoor plant cultivation that exists. It requires less space, less equipment, less cost, and less maintenance than soil gardening. The roots are visible and monitorable. The aesthetic, glass vessels, clean root systems, clear water, is genuinely beautiful. Today on Sacred Roots, 20 plants that grow in water, thrive in water, and in many cases prefer water to soil. Number 17. Roots so fast you will see it happening in real time. Number 20. Requires nothing more than something most people already have in their kitchen. Subscribe and ring the bell. Every week we recover the practical wisdom the modern world nearly buried. Plant number 1. Pothos. Pothos, Epipremnum aureum, is native to the Solomon Islands, and its trailing vines have decorated homes in every culture that encountered them for centuries. Ancient Pacific Island cultures understood it as a plant of vitality and persistence, qualities reflected in its common name, devil's ivy. Pothos is nearly impossible to kill. In water, it does not merely survive, it thrives, often more vigorously than in soil. Take a cutting with a few leaves and at least one node, the small bump on the stem where leaves attach. Place it in any glass container of water. Within a week, white roots emerge from the node. Within a month, the root system is dense and established. Specialized water roots that differ structurally from soil roots, perfectly adapted to absorbing oxygen and nutrients directly from the aquatic environment. Change the water every 1 to 2 weeks to keep it oxygenated and clear of algae. That is the entire care requirement. No drainage holes, no soil amendments, no watering schedule to forget. A glass jar, water, and a cutting. This is how indoor gardening worked for most of human history, and it works just as well today. Plant number 2. Lucky bamboo. Lucky bamboo, Dracaena sanderiana, is not actually bamboo. It is a member of the Dracaena family, native to Central Africa, and has been grown in water in Chinese and East Asian households for centuries as a symbol of good fortune, resilience, and prosperity. Traditional feng shui practice kept it in water containers with pebbles, not for nutrition, but to anchor the stalks upright in the fully aquatic root environment the plant evolved for. This is not a plant adapting to water culture. It is a plant that is already perfectly designed for it. In its native habitat, it grows along riverbanks with roots constantly submerged. Water is its natural medium. Stalks live for years in the same container, continuously producing new leaves. Keep the water level consistent, covering the roots and about an inch of stalk base. Change the water every 2 to 3 weeks. Use filtered or distilled water if your tap supply is heavily chlorinated. The living sculpture that traditional East Asian households tended for centuries is among the simplest and most enduring water plants available. Plant number 3. Heartleaf philodendron. Heartleaf philodendron, Philodendron hederaceum, has been growing in water on kitchen windowsills for generations. Ask anyone whose grandmother kept houseplants, and you will likely hear about the glass of water on the windowsill with the heart-shaped leaves trailing down. Philodendrons root faster and more reliably in water than almost any other tropical plant, and generations of practical observation confirmed this before any botanical research did. Take a cutting with a few leaves and a node. Place it in water and within days, root nubs form at the node. Within 2 weeks, a developing root system is visible. Within a month, new leaves unfurl. The plant continues producing vine after vine indefinitely. These are not temporary roots waiting to be transplanted. They are permanent, functional roots adapted to aquatic life. Use a clear glass container to monitor root health. Change the water weekly. Provide bright, indirect light. The vine that decorated your grandmother's windowsill will decorate yours the same way, for the same reasons, with no less grace. Plant number 4. Spider plant. Spider plant, Chlorophytum comosum, continuously produces baby plants called spiderets, each arriving with its own tiny root system already started. These plantlets are, in the most literal botanical sense, designed to drop into water and begin growing immediately. Long, arching leaves striped with white or cream send out long stems carrying clusters of tiny white flowers that mature into dangling plantlets. Each plantlet snipped from its stem and placed in a small glass of water will develop roots that triple in length within the first week, with new leaves emerging shortly after. The plant establishes so quickly and reliably that many people maintain entire collections in water, creating cascading displays of green and white foliage. Spider plants have been popular houseplants for over a century because of their adaptability to varying conditions. That same quality makes water culture effortless. Change the water weekly, provide bright indirect light, and the plant eventually produces its own spiderets, perpetuating the cycle indefinitely. This is the plant that multiplies itself for free and asks only water in return. Plant number 5. Peace lily. Peace lily, Spathiphyllum species, grows naturally on tropical forest floors where soil stays consistently saturated with moisture. That constant moisture preference translates to water culture, but the transition requires patience. You cannot simply drop a soil-grown peace lily into water and expect immediate success. First, gently wash all soil from the roots. Place in water, changing it every few days initially as old root material breaks down and new water roots develop. Within a few weeks, the plant establishes and begins producing new growth. Once settled, the care is simple. Weekly water changes, roots submerged but crown above the waterline, bright indirect light. The white spathes that make peace lily so distinctive will continue appearing once the plant is established in its new medium. The sophisticated plant that traditional healing spaces valued, noted for air purification in earlier Sacred Roots videos, does not require soil to deliver its beauty. It requires only clean water and consistent attention. Plant number 6, Chinese evergreen. Chinese evergreen, Aglaonema species, has been a prized houseplant since Victorian times, valued for its tolerance of low light and its leaves painted with patterns of silver, pink, red, cream, and dark green that resemble hand-painted artwork. The toughness that makes it survive in dark corners also makes it adaptable to water growing. Stem cuttings with several leaves root reliably in water within 2 to 3 weeks. Once established, the plant grows steadily, unfurling new patterned leaves every few weeks. Those colors maintain their vibrancy in water culture. Some varieties actually intensify in color when receiving adequate light without inconsistent soil moisture to contend with. Maintenance is straightforward. Weekly water changes, indirect light, and attention to algae growth in the container, which signals that the water needs more frequent changing. A Chinese evergreen in a clear glass vessel, ornate leaves above water, white root system visible below, is a genuinely beautiful object that requires almost nothing beyond clean water and appreciation. Plant number 7, English ivy. English ivy, Hedera helix, has been trailing from glass bottles on cottage windowsills for centuries. The classic image of Victorian houseplants, glass bottles on windowsills, trailing vines reaching toward light, was built largely on ivy. The reason is practical. Ivy cuttings root faster and more reliably in water than in soil. Ivy grows naturally in moist, shaded environments, its aerial roots clinging to tree bark and stone walls where water is consistently present. Those same roots adapt perfectly to full water culture, developing robust white root systems that sustain vigorous growth for years. Take cuttings with several leaves and at least 2 nodes. Place in water, and within a week, root nubs are visible. Within a month, new growth extends from the growing tip. Multiple cuttings in a single decorative glass bottle create the dense, cascading foliage that traditional cottage interiors cultivated deliberately. Change the water weekly. Provide bright, indirect light, though ivy tolerates lower light better than most water-grown plants. Plant number 8, Coleus. Coleus, Coleus species, produces leaves painted in combinations of crimson, pink, purple, yellow, lime, and deep burgundy in patterns that change with the light. It roots with astonishing speed. Take a cutting, remove the lower leaves, Place the stem in water, and within 3 to 5 days, roots emerge. Within 2 weeks, a substantial root system supports active new growth. The color intensity in coleus leaves actually improves in water culture when the plant receives adequate light, without the stress of inconsistent soil moisture. Growing multiple varieties together in clear containers, mixing colors and patterns, creates displays of living color that continuously renew as new leaves emerge. Change water twice weekly and add diluted liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks. These fast-growing plants consume nutrients quickly. Pinch back growing tips regularly to encourage bushy growth rather than leggy stems. This is a plant that rewards attention with extraordinary visual results. Plant number 9, begonia. Cane begonias, angel wing begonias, consistently surprise people by adapting beautifully to aquatic growing, thriving for years without soil. They grow as epiphytes in their native habitats, absorbing moisture from humid air, an adaptation to consistent moisture without saturated roots that translates directly to water culture. Take a stem cutting with several leaves, remove the bottom leaves, and place in water. Within a week, roots begin forming. Within 3 weeks, a functional root system supports new leaf growth. Some cane begonias reach 2 feet tall in water culture, producing cascades of spotted or painted leaves and clusters of delicate flowers if they receive adequate light. Use clean water changed twice weekly. Provide bright, indirect light. Never direct sun, which scorches the ornate leaves. Support tall stems against the container as the plant grows. The plant that most people consider too fancy for simple care proves consistently that extraordinary beauty and minimal maintenance are not mutually exclusive. Plant number 10. Arrowhead plant. Arrowhead plant. Syngonium podophyllum. Grows so quickly in water that you can measure visible progress weekly. Arrow-shaped leaves range from solid green to variegated white, pink, and multicolored varieties. Young plants grow upright. As they mature, they trail, filling a container with cascading foliage. The plant naturally produces aerial roots along its stems, structures already adapted to absorbing water. So when a cutting is placed in water, it already has the architecture needed to become a water root immediately. Within a week of placing a cutting in water, visible roots are present. Within a month, new leaves actively emerge. Arrowhead plants actually prefer the consistent moisture of water culture over the wet, dry cycles of soil in pots, growing faster, producing more vibrant colors, and maintaining fuller foliage. Weekly water changes and bright indirect light are the only regular requirements. The growth rate is genuinely satisfying, one of the most rewarding transitions from soil to water available. Plant number 11. Silver inch plant. Silver inch plant. Tradescantia zebrina. Roots faster than almost any other houseplant. Roots become visible within 24 to 48 hours of placing a cutting in water. By the end of the first week, the root system is substantial. The plant earns its common name, can grow an inch per day under good conditions, and that growth rate applies equally to root development. The trailing stems are covered in leaves striped silver and green with deep purple undersides that intensify in good light. Every node along those stems carries visible root nubs, existing structures that activate immediately upon contact with water, expanding and extending within hours. Set up cuttings in the morning and check back that evening to see the beginning of roots forming. Change the water every 3 to 5 days. These vigorous plants cloud water quickly. Provide bright indirect light for the deepest purple pigmentation. Pinch back growing tips to encourage bushy fullness. The plant that cannot wait to root reminds you that growing things is not difficult. With the right conditions, it is nearly effortless. Plant number 12. Monstera. Monstera deliciosa, the plant with iconic perforated leaves, can live long-term in water. This is not a temporary arrangement. A monstera with adequate container size, adequate light, and liquid fertilizer added to its water will grow continuously, producing new leaves with their characteristic splits and holes. Monstera naturally develops thick aerial roots it uses in its rainforest habitat to anchor to trees and absorb moisture from humid air. Those aerial roots transition readily to water culture. Take a cutting that includes at least 1 leaf and 1 aerial root, place it in a large container of water, and within weeks the aerial root adapts to its new medium, while new water roots develop from the stem nodes. The key requirement that distinguishes Monstera from smaller water plants is nutrition. Add diluted liquid fertilizer to the water every 2 weeks, as a plant producing leaves this large requires nutrients that plain water cannot supply. Change the water weekly. A dramatic architectural plant with roots visible in a large glass vessel is one of the most striking indoor displays possible. Plant number 13. Dieffenbachia. Dieffenbachia produces some of the boldest foliage patterns in houseplant cultivation. Large leaves painted with creamy white and deep green in patterns ranging from fine stippling to broad brushstroke-like markings. Mature plants naturally drop lower leaves, leaving sections of bare stem below the leaf cluster at top. These bare stem sections, material most people discard, are ideal for water culture. Cut bare stem sections 4 to 6 inches long with at least one visible node. Place in water with the node submerged. Within 2 weeks, roots emerge below and new shoots above. Within a month, new patterned leaves unfurl from what had appeared to be nothing but a stick. Dieffenbachia actually prefers the consistent moisture of water culture over the wet-dry cycle of traditional pot culture. Root rot from overwatered soil is one of the most common causes of Dieffenbachia failure, a problem that water culture eliminates entirely. Change water weekly. Provide bright, indirect light. Old material, given clean water and adequate light, produces new life. Plant number 14. Dracaena. Dracaena marginata and related species, takes a different approach to water culture. It grows slowly, establishes quietly, and then simply persists. Years, without soil, without complicated care, without drama. These architectural plants with spiky foliage on woody stems are adapted to environments with inconsistent rainfall, making them extraordinarily efficient with water and nutrients, qualities that translate directly to stable, long-term aquatic culture. One specific care note: Dracaena is sensitive to fluoride in tap water, which causes characteristic brown leaf tips. Use distilled, filtered, or collected rainwater. Change the water every 2 weeks rather than weekly. This slow-growing plant does not require the frequent changes that vigorous growers need. Provide moderate, indirect light. The result is a plant that establishes itself in its aquatic environment and simply lives there, adding growth slowly and steadily, never creating problems, never demanding attention. In a world of high-maintenance plants and complicated routines, Dracaena in water is quietly, reliably remarkable. Plant number 15. Prayer plant. Prayer plant, Maranta leuconura, brings something to water culture that no other plant on this list provides: movement. The leaves track light during the day and fold upward at night in a behavior called nyctinasty, the reason for the common name, as the folded leaves suggest hands in prayer. This movement continues in water culture, creating a plant that feels genuinely alive. The leaves are painted with intricate patterns, red or white veins on backgrounds of light and dark green in precise geometric arrangements, unlike anything else in the botanical world. Prayer plant grows naturally on tropical forest floors in consistently moist, humid conditions. Take cuttings with at least 2 leaves and several nodes. Place in water and bright filtered light, never direct sun, which bleaches the patterns. Within 2 weeks, roots develop. Within a month, new patterned leaves emerge. Weekly water changes and careful light management maintain both vigor and color intensity. A plant that moves, responds to its environment, and folds its leaves at nightfall is not merely decoration. It is company. Plant number 16. Swiss cheese vine. Swiss cheese vine, Monstera adansonii, delivers the visual appeal of its famous relative in a plant that stays manageable in size and roots quickly in water culture. Leaves are 6 to 8 inches long, with natural perforations that develop as the plant matures. Take cuttings with 2 or 3 leaves and at least 1 node. Place in water, and within a week, roots begin forming. Within 3 weeks, a substantial root system supports active new growth. Monstera species grow naturally as epiphytes, already adapted to getting what they need from sources other than traditional soil. Water culture mimics their natural growing conditions. Add diluted liquid fertilizer to the water every other week. Change, as perforated leaf development requires more nutrients than plain water provides. Bright, indirect light encourages the characteristic hole formation in new leaves. The result is a continuously growing vine of perforated tropical foliage that requires nothing more than a clear container, regular water changes, and occasional fertilizer. Plant number 17, Purple Heart. Purple Heart, Tradescantia pallida, roots faster than any other plant on this list. Place a cutting in water in the morning and check back that evening. The beginning of roots is visible. By the next day, roots are clearly present. By the end of the week, a fully rooted plant grows vigorously. The thick, succulent-like stems are covered in lance-shaped leaves in deep, rich purple, a color that approaches near black in full sun. Every node along those stems is ready to produce roots immediately upon contact with water. Multiple cuttings in one container create a dramatic display of purple foliage cascading down from the rim, a striking visual effect achievable within days of obtaining cuttings. Change water weekly. Provide bright light for the deepest color. Pinch back growing tips to encourage bushy growth. The plant grows year-round without dormancy, a continuously productive, continuously beautiful presence on any windowsill, and one of the most immediately rewarding water culture experiences available. Plant number 18, Mint. Mint, Mentha species, was considered valuable enough to tithe in the ancient world. Jesus named it specifically in Matthew chapter 23. Traditional Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and European cultures used it medicinally for digestion, headaches, and respiratory complaints, and maintained it in containers near the kitchen for constant availability. Growing mint in water on a kitchen windowsill achieves exactly that proximity without soil, drainage, or maintenance complications. Take cuttings, remove the lower leaves, place in water, and within days you have roots. Within 2 weeks, new growth is active enough to begin harvesting. The plant responds to harvesting by producing more growth. Cut what you need for tea, cooking, or medicinal preparations, and the plant branches and fills out rather than depleting. The aggressive spreading that makes mint problematic in soil is perfectly contained in water culture while preserving the vigor that makes it so productive. Change water twice weekly. Provide the brightest available light. The herb the ancient world valued enough to tithe is available from your kitchen windowsill, continuously, for the cost of a single cutting. Plant number 19, Basil. Basil, Ocimum basilicum, appears in traditional medicine systems from ancient Egypt through Greece and Rome, and across the medieval European herb garden as both culinary and medicinal plant. Growing it in water achieves the kitchen proximity that traditional practice considered practically essential, without soil, drainage, or maintenance complications. Stem cuttings root within a week in water and produce active growth within 2 weeks. Each time you harvest leaves from the growing tips, the correct harvesting technique, the plant branches and becomes bushier, producing more leaves from each pruning point. Research on basil in hydroponic conditions confirms that water-grown basil frequently produces more essential oil concentration and therefore more intense flavor than soil-grown plants given equivalent light. Change water every 3 to 4 days. Basil oils can cloud water faster than other herbs. Provide the brightest available light. Basil wants sun more than any other plant on this list. Add diluted liquid fertilizer weekly. A single basil plant maintained in water on a kitchen windowsill provides fresh leaves for months. Plant number 20, Sweet Potato Vine. We saved this one for last because it requires no cutting, no purchase, and no specialized knowledge, just something most people already have in their kitchen. Take a sweet potato, organic where possible, as conventional ones are sometimes treated with sprout inhibitors, and place it in a jar of water with the pointed end down and approximately half the potato submerged. Within a week, roots emerge from the lower end. Within 2 weeks, sprouts appear from the upper end. Within a month, trailing vines extend from the container. Within 2 months, those vines can reach several feet in length, filling a window with dense green, purple, or variegated foliage. The sweet potato is a storage organ packed with accumulated energy, specifically designed to produce new growth when conditions are right. Water and light activate processes already fully prepared to begin. No fertilizer needed initially, as the potato contains everything the emerging plant requires. This practice was standard in households across generations, a way of bringing green growing things indoors through winter months. Your grandmother may have done it. Her grandmother certainly did. It requires nothing exotic, costs nothing beyond the potato in your pantry, and produces lush, cascading results that look deliberately cultivated. Sometimes the most ancient practice is also the most practical. 20 plants, all of them growing in water, all of them capable of living, thriving, and in many cases preferring water to soil. The knowledge that plants can be grown this way was never lost, so much as deliberately undervalued by an industry that profits from complexity. Your great-grandparents knew this. The cottage gardeners of every European tradition knew it. The Asian households growing lucky bamboo in water vessels for 1,000 years knew it. You can bring a cutting home from any of these plants today, place it in a glass of water on your windowsill, and watch it root. That simple act connects you to every person who ever kept a plant in water, and there have been, in the long history of homes and plants and the human desire to keep living things near, an extraordinary number of them. Hit that like button and subscribe to Sacred Roots. Every week we go deeper into the practical and historical wisdom of plants, and every week we find that the old ways were rarely as complicated as the new ones.